Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello, friends, and welcome into another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us part of your Thursday, March 4th, 2021 in the beautiful city of Chicago. And I hope you are all being safe and sound wherever you're listening to us here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves. On today's episode, I wanted to just kind of vent about the Chicago Bears. A lot of news about Russell Wilson, a lot of news about Deshaun Watson, just a lot of stuff and a lot of nothing coming out of Soldier Field and at Hallis Hall as Ryan Pace spoke with the media. And we got a whole lot of nothing. But with that, I think you and I need to have a conversation about the monsters of the Midway. We got to talk about the Chicago Bears. But before we get to all that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. Follow me on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can keep up with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, the home to our interviews with athletes and celebrities that you could get ad-free. And before anybody else, that's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Check us out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Come play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And if you would like to keep up to date with everything we're doing on the network, from the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, our sister podcast, the Gone Missing Podcast, follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves.
This is always such a unique time of year as we're approaching free agency. And I appreciate you guys understanding the sensitivity that comes with that. Obviously it's a time period where every team's got to make a lot of decisions, a lot of important decisions, your own UFAs, evaluating the free agent market, the trade market, prepping for the draft. That's just the moment we're in right now. Our coaching staff's been finalized. That was really the first step in our offseason process. And we're excited about a lot of the additions and some of the changes we made on the coaching end, but now it's onto the rosters. So that's the window we're in. Right now for us, everything's on the table in regard to the quarterback situation. And honestly, that includes players on our current roster. That includes free agency, trade, the draft, and a combination of all those. So we have a plan in place, and now it's about executing that plan. Yeah, again, that's going to be part of our offseason plan, and we're not going to lay all that out right now, Pat. It's just those are all internal discussions we've had. But I would say again, everything's on the table with all the quarterbacks. Yeah, and Dan, hey Dan, it's not just Matt and I. It's our coaches and our scouts together, and I would say on all positions, but especially that one, it's been daily conversations that we've had. So. Not just talking, but watching film together, discussing different traits, discussing different players and different avenues to acquire those players and different combinations. So I think we're ready to kind of pivot a number of ways. I think that's going to be important this offseason, especially with that position. Yeah, I think, and it could be, you're right on a position of need, you could say, but it could be any scenario where there's a potential trade. We're going to explore every one of those, Dan. We'll be thorough with that. So it's just us doing our due diligence on all different things and exploring every avenue to improve our team and improve our roster. And it's no different with that. Yeah, without getting into specific players, I think, this is going to be a year, Mark. You guys know it's going to be about adjusting. And we're not the only team in the league dealing with these circumstances. And everyone's prepping for a tighter cap. We have a plan in place with that. It involves different things. I mean, there's different ways for us to create room with our cap, not just releasing players. That's a hard part of the business. We had a difficult decision with Buster yesterday, and there'll be some decisions to make. I think you're going to see more of that around the league than you've ever seen. But we're prepared. We're expecting a cap to be about 180. So we're prepared for that, and we'll operate accordingly.
That was the general manager of the Chicago Bears, Ryan Pace, addressing the media on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. And like I said before we got to that audio, that was the answers. He was giving a really good question-filled media row, and a lot of it is dealing with the potential of free agency. And you're hearing him talk about that they're thinking about what it would be to bring in a free agent, Mitch Trubisky being an option. Just a lot of different ways to look at it. But on today's edition, we kind of wanted to see what really is the feel right now of this organization. You heard what the GM had to say, and you've seen kind of the action that's been going around the league. You've seen some of the rumors that have gone around the league. We're talking about Matthew Stafford, Carson Wentz. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. So with that, I think we need to kind of just take a second to really break this thing down. And it's fun and it's really a good time to talk about the potential, playing fantasy football, playing Madden, and making these things. But I think there's a good conversation to be had about why Deshaun Watson and or Russell Wilson, if they're serious, would want to come play for the Chicago Bears, and how they would be able to do this. So just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm at mentally with this organization right now, I tweeted this out over at Mike M Media on Twitter, and these are the reasons why the 2020-2021 Bears continue to upset me. We start off with the trade for Nick Foles and his money. Obviously, just bringing in that big contract was one thing, but giving up equity and assets just to bring in Nick Foles, a mistake right there. Boom, the guy who was supposed to be able to run your offense. You then go on a 6-game losing streak with that guy at quarterback, and you're playing this back and forth with Mitch Trubisky and with Nick Foles. And this idea that he's going to be able to run your offense and you could do, class 200 and all this nonsense cliche that you put upon yourself. You back your way into the playoffs. This isn't any hand of the players. But bottom line is, you didn't show up in a playoff game on Nickelodeon nonetheless, and you get blown out. To just end up with the 20th pick and no cash. The offseason in which you have not one, but two great quarterbacks who would play for your organization. And also the word collaboration. I am so sick and tired of hearing the word collaboration from this team. It's just a lazy way of saying a lot of people need to justify their jobs. And the reason that tweet came out to really upset me, this came out as a tweet of all the teams and their cap space. To give you an example of how much money some teams are able to have, and we heard Ryan Pace talk about it at the end of that clip. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, have $82 million of cap space. And that's with the number 1 draft pick. They bring in their new head coach. New things and new times are coming. The New York Jets, right? $77 million. The number 2 draft pick. Position to make a move after Deshaun Watson. Your Chicago Bears, they are over the cap space at $4 million. How frustrating as a Bears fan is it right now to know that your organization, the one thing that it's ever needed, the only thing that it's ever missed, you can't have because of bad money and asset management. That's the bottom line. That is the truth. And that should upset you as a Bears fan. Because once again, this isn't about the talent. This isn't even about a game plan. This is a structure that was built. One person's game plan, his blueprints, all over it, right? You're $4 million over the cap space. When you're going to be, and nobody could have predicted the pandemic. So, okay. But you're going into post-pandemic season over the cap. And once again, a Chicago organization is caught with its pants down by its ankles when what they needed the most is available for them. Once again, showing that the biggest hindrance, the biggest roadblock for this team are the damn people running it. This isn't even funny. Look at the position you're in right now. Because Ryan Pace didn't have a conversation, didn't bother doing the due diligence to talk to a Heisman-winning, national championship-winning super stud from the SEC quarterback in Deshaun Watson. I've always told people here on this show, here on Sports from the Couch, I can't get mad at you for not hitting on Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't the answer. And I know a lot of people with this go back and talk about a lot of experts had Mitch Trubisky being the best quarterback of that draft class. But every person understood that the team that needed a quarterback that was going to stabilize you, not the raw potential of what could be, the guy that was going to come in and be the quarterback for your organization for the next 7 to 15 years to stabilize you, was the guy who has won a national championship and played against NFL talent week in and week out. They chose not to choose him. They went for the high risk, high reward, big bust, who, by the way, if he ends up in a good organization, could still end up being a decent quarterback. But it was the wrong decision made, and it has been a continuation of it. They signed McDonald, for God's sakes. You draft Leonard Floyd. Yeah, he didn't work out here, and he's working out in LA, right? But isn't it Ryan Pace's job to hire the right guys for player development? Kevin White, how's he worked out for your Chicago Bears? This front office is getting another opportunity to make these picks, to make this decision. And that's what's so fascinating is we don't know. We believe that they're on the hot seat, but we don't know that. Especially speaking of the McCaskies, we don't know if Ryan Pace is actually going to lose his job or has the potential of losing his job if he doesn't get this thing right. Matt Nagy, I think we all have a pretty good idea that he's on the hot seat, that they need to make a playoff push, that they need to look good, regardless of what happens. But Ryan Pace is the issue, one way or another, because he's the one that's making all the decisions. He's the football guy. We heard it. We heard it from Ted. We've heard it from George. So if that's the case, this is the guy that's going to get all the congratulations, all the secret contracts, all the money, the lifetime spot if they win. He gets to make another quarterback choice. He'll get to make another coaching choice. So if you got all that leeway, I'm putting it on you. We get to talk about Matt Nagy week 1 through week 17. We get to criticize him every single day because he's in front of the media. How often is Ryan Pace in the front of the media, huh? How often do you get clips like that from him? That's why it's frustrating as an NFL fan, as a Chicagoan, as a Chicago sports fan, and as a Bears fan. Then as a broadcaster, it's just incompetency I keep seeing. It's unimaginable to think of some of these other big $3 billion organizations who kind of ran this way, like a mom and pop shop. Are you kidding me? You're the charter franchise. And you're in a position right now when 2 franchise quarterbacks are available, and one of them, who's won a Super Bowl, has you on his list, and you have nothing to offer. You're nowhere in the conversation of reality. But let's go and talk. Let's have a little fun, okay? Because I know I went on a rant, and once again, Mike's ranting about Ryan Pace and talking about the worst decision, the most unforgivable decision he ever made by not picking Deshaun Watson. You're right, I'm going to keep doing it because he didn't draft him. But why would Russ come here? Like, let's be honest with each other. If you're Russell Wilson, and if the reports are true that he kind of likes how this offensive line is gelling and developing, okay. But this thing was put together with bubblegum and rubber bands and staples, and it was something that developed throughout the season. So, and maybe he feels that with a team like the Bears, he can make up for some of the mistakes that his offensive line is going to make. Okay, cool. What's going on with Allen Robinson? You know what? A top 15? At the very least, a top 20 receiver in the NFL. You haven't heard anything about him, any contract talk, just cryptic tweets, right? So if you're Russell Wilson, you're leaving Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf to come here and play with Anthony Miller? No disrespect to Anthony Miller or Cole Kmet. And there's some offensive pieces. I like Darnell Mooney. I like David Montgomery. Cole Kmet could be something. So maybe there's a little sexiness that Russ sees. Maybe there's some ingredients that he can see to cook. Sure. But are you going to come to a team that you're not too sure if the head coach is going to be there the very next year? And then let's just say you come into this team, you guys go 7-9, right? But Russell Wilson is the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Ryan Pace isn't going anywhere. The man brought in Khalil Mack and Russell Wilson. He's got a job for at least another decade. So that's set. Matt Nagy's gone. Is Russell Wilson going to have input on the head coach of the Chicago Bears? You really think that? You think that they're smart enough to listen to the guy who's going to run the plays, run the offense, be the face of the organization? Again, the team that didn't draft Deshaun Watson, didn't talk to him, but loved the story of Mitch Trubisky driving the piece of crap Toyota? Okay, sure. Why would Russ want to come here? It makes no sense to want to leave a team that, at the very least, you have some input. Even if they say you don't, think about it like you have the sway. Because the fandom, you're the one who brought them a championship. Now here you come to Chicago right away, you're the best quarterback in franchise history. So people are going to love you and you're going to have some leeway when it comes to the record and whatnot. But when it comes to being able to make roster changes and opinions, I assume Russell Wilson has some leeway with the fandom in Seattle. So he should and be able to pressure a team. And maybe that's what he's doing right now. Because what people in Chicago don't seem to understand is the cap hit that will be coming to the Seattle Seahawks if they make any move with Russell Wilson before June 1st? So if you're Seattle, we're going to have a $34 million cap hit and not get a quarterback back from the Bears? Why would they make that deal? It makes sense if Oakland wants to make a deal. You got Derek Carr. Boom, you can make that swap. That makes a little sense if you're really trying to move from him. What are the Bears going to be able to do? Now, if you want to talk about Deshaun Watson and Houston, that at least makes a little bit more sense. With them, I would assume, and it's kind of being reported, that at the very least, you're looking at giving 3 number ones. The next 3 years, are you willing to give up your draft picks, your first rounders, for Deshaun Watson? For most Chicagoans, for more Bears fans, the question's answered as soon as you say Deshaun Watson's what's up for grabs. I understand that. And I understand a lot of people's arguments and conversations of it does matter what you give up. You're just going to end up 4-12 like the Houston Texans, which why would Deshaun want to leave Houston just to end up in a new Houston? It's a little bit different. There's a little bit more of a different dynamic. So if the cost for Deshaun Watson is at least 3 number ones, and if you're able to send a player or whatever to make this deal work, I think you have no choice if you're Ryan Pace. And understanding that you're going to have to be creative when it comes to restructuring contracts. You're going to have to be creative when it comes to drafts because it's going to be second or third rounders that are going to need to make impacts. You're going to have to be creative with free agents. But this idea of, you're just going to set yourself back and 2 steps back, and while all valid and makes sense in a conversation, we all know that in all sports, you can't win a World Series without a great ace, great bullpen, and a few good big timely hits. The NBA, you can't win an NBA title with at least one great player and maybe an all-star, right? That 2-tier player. In the NFL, you can't win a Super Bowl without, at the very least, a very good quarterback. So it doesn't matter how great of a scout you are for defensive players, how great you're able to find that diamond in the rough wide receiver or running back. If you don't have a quarterback that can make the big play in the big moment to find his playmakers, you're not winning anything. So right now, the Bears aren't even on the table. They don't have cards. They don't have bets. They don't have chips. So if your only way to get invited into the casino, to get a bite at the apple, to take a swing, whatever metaphor you want to use, is your next 3 number 1 picks to get a 27-year-old, a top 10 quarterback in this league, you do it. You have no choice. And how fast this league turns around and how quick talent develops and rises, this is that moment for the Bears. And while all this conversation has been how they were not prepared for this moment, if Ryan Pace wants to keep his job, if Matt Nagy wants to show everybody that it was the quarterback that couldn't run it, the only answer is Deshaun Watson. Now, if somehow they are able to make a move and find Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, that's great. The Russell Wilson thing, as much as I love it, as much as it would be awesome, not just a Bears fandom, not just for us in Chicago, but for the NFL, to see Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers twice a year, that'd be great. Deshaun Watson, no, makes sense for the present and for the future of this organization, which in that preserves, whether you like it or not, the job security of Ryan Pace. So my question is, how much is his job worth to him to be the general manager and the football guy of the Chicago Bears? Is it worth 3 number ones, which he seems to be just willing to get rid of? And by the way, spent one on a Kevin White for Deshaun Watson? Seems kind of simple to me. The only question is, does he have enough on the table to make a legitimate offer for the Houston Texans to get rid of a dynamic top quarterback in the NFL? Let me know your thoughts. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and keep up to date with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. That'll do it for us on this edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, you can follow us all over the universe. Follow me on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can keep up with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, the home to our interviews with athletes and celebrities that you could get ad-free and before anybody else. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Check us out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Come play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And if you would like to keep up to date with everything we're doing on the network, from the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, our sister podcast, the Gone Missing Podcast, follow us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy the rest of the games. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.